The curtain hasn't been lifted yet, but the buzz around Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 has almost never been louder. From a lot of teasers by developers to fans dissecting every small hint in trailers and interviews, the anticipation for this Final Fantasy chapter in one of gaming's most ambitious retellings continues to grow stronger almost by the day. Now, for almost a decade now, Final Fantasy VII Remake has been more than just a reinterpretation of a beloved 1997 classic. It's become a phenomenon, a reimagining that redefines how stories from our childhood can be rebuilt and expanded for modern platforms and players. The first game in the series launched in 2020 to critical praise, and the second entry, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, released in 2024, blew open the doors with a larger world and more freedom than fans expected. And that sort of puts Part 3 in a special position. It's both a conclusion and a culmination of everything this remake project has built up over the years. So the director of the franchise has been unusually candid for a Square Enix project. In recent interviews, he confirmed that Part 3 is already in a playable state and that development is entering its final refining phases. According to him, the team is almost exactly on schedule and improving the game day after day. He matched this with an optimistic promise that fans won't have to wait too long before seeing a proper reveal or update. That's huge for fans who've felt the wait for this installment stretch longer than expected. Rebirth was ambitious in its open-ended direction. Part 3 is expected to be even bigger. In fact, the director's comments suggest that the team isn't just polishing systems, they're shaping a narrative experience that is nearly complete. And in a series like Final Fantasy VII, where story is king, this is a reassuring sign. And speaking of story, here's where things get even more intriguing. So unlike many game franchises that announce sequels with a placeholder title, Part 3 has reportedly had its final title decided already. And while that doesn't mean it's been publicly revealed yet, insiders and leaks suggest that directors locked it down behind the scenes. There is no official announcement from Square Enix yet, but the fact that they've chosen a name intently says a lot about how close this chapter may be to reveal. However, before we dive even deeper into speculation, let's talk platforms and technology, because Part 3 might reshape how the series is delivered across different devices. So for most of the remake project, the focus had been on PlayStation platforms first, with PC and others following. And that pattern began with the original Final Fantasy VII Remake, which debuted on PlayStation for a time period before moving to PC. And Rebirth continued that trend, releasing first on PlayStation 5 before expanding to PC and soon to systems like the Nintendo Switch 2. With Part 3, however, Square Enix appears to be shifting strategy. PC is now the lead platform for development, with PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and Nintendo Switch 2 all optimized from that core build. Assets are created at the highest quality first, matching PC capabilities, and then scaled down thoughtfully for other hardware. And this approach ensures the game's visual fidelity remains high on all platforms, and that the experience feels premium regardless of where you play it. Considering all that, it's a big evolution for the Final Fantasy franchise as a whole, which has traditionally been closely tied to PlayStation hardware since the original debuted on PlayStation 1 in 1997. Now the series seems to be embracing a truly multi-platform future where no single console gets pre-treatment in terms of quality or performance. See, there are a few technical trade-offs fans are already debating though. For weaker hardware like Xbox Series X and Nintendo Switch 2, the development team is targeting 30 frames per second as a stable performance goal, prioritizing smooth frame rate over flashy visuals on PlayStation 5 and high-end PC rigs. Performance models and scaling are expected to push higher frame rates wherever possible. Now, graphically and technically, another curious decision is that Square Enix is sticking with Unreal Engine 4 for Part 3. Rather than upgrading to Unreal Engine 5 like many modern games, the game's director explained that this choice wasn't about a fear of new tech, but about minimizing risk and maximizing stability within the project's schedule. Unreal Engine 4 was familiar territory for the development team, and they've already created sophisticated tooling around it from the first 2 games. Switching engines mid-project could delay everything, and Part 3 is already progressing quite well. On top of all that, one exciting snippet that recently surfaced is the potential design for an iconic weapon, the Ultimate Weapon, hinted at in the Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis spin-off. While there is no official confirmation that this exact design will appear in Part 3, the possibility that Remake fans might see stylized version of such a classic upgrade is electrifying right now. So where does Part 3 fit in the Final Fantasy timeline? Here's the thing. Rebirth expanded the world and pushed forward, Cloud and his allies across massive environments. Part 3 is expected to finally conclude the Remake arc, potentially bridging lines with Final Fantasy VII Advent Children and bringing final confirmation to life with all the character depth and emotional beats the modern series can muster. In fact, fans are already speculating about a wide range of narrative beats that Part 3 could cover, from revisiting classic locations like the Northern Crater with brand new scenes to delivering fresh interpretations of key moments from the original 1997 story. Some even believe the final game may go beyond the original's beats, flashing out sequences that were only hinted at back then. If you think about how Part 2 expanded the core Midgar departures into sprawling open-world zones, the storyline potential is massive. There are also rumors, unconfirmed but persistent, that some of the team wants to evolve the gameplay further rather than repeat the Rebirth formula. For example, we might see unique forms of traversal, evolved summons, novel party mechanics that reflect the ending direction of Rebirth and set the tone for a truly grand finale. Exactly how that will play out remains to be seen, but the idea of a shifting combat identity between titles is a fascinating one. Of course, one of the biggest questions on everyone's mind is when will we actually see it? So Square Enix does not announce a release date, not even a teaser trailer with gameplay. All we've had were interviews, hints of quality, confirmation that the game exists and is progressing. The game's director said updates will come not too far in the future, and industry eyes are watching events like Summer Showcase and later 2026 reveals for a potential reveal window. And for many fans, the excitement isn't just about revisiting an old story, it's about experiencing Final Fantasy VII in a way that feels alive. The first 2 games prove that Remake can be both respectful to its origins and bold in its reinvention. Part 3 has the opportunity to pull all of that together and deliver something truly unforgettable. And if all this comes true, if the story, the combat evolution, the multi-platform focus, and the technical polishing align, then Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 won't just be a conclusion, it'll definitely be a celebration of one of the most enduring stories in gaming history, rebuilt, expanded, and delivered to a whole new generation of players.